All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to Referral Magic Advanced Session number 1 for Deep Dive Advanced Training. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody we are recording these. We have some folks that may have interruptions, or we had a couple folks that won't be on this call but are going to go back through it. So, real quick, make sure you have a pen and paper, hot cup of coffee, iced tea, water, because we're going to go quickly here. We're looking at probably 45 to 60 minutes. And in essence, with this first session, there'll be a lot of questions afterward with the homework that I assigned. So we'll definitely address those when we look at the session 2, which is next week. Paul, do me a quick favor. I'm going to keep rolling, but if you can try to tweak it, I'm getting good feedback on my end and my headpiece. So I'm going to keep going. But it's weird to hear myself talking.
You need to mute your speakers on your laptop.
They're completely muted out. There we go. Oh, we're going to keep rolling. So let's go ahead and dive in with the first slide.
Okay.
All right. What we're going to cover in detail in session 1 is additional areas within what we call the ASK formula. For everyone that was on the call last week, we talked a little bit about what ASK means. We're going to, as advertised, dig much deeper in the session. Second thing we're going to hit on is scenarios where referrals are there for the taking. Now, as we train the next few weeks, I think everyone should know this up front. These techniques work over time. They don't work exactly every single time. And here's why I'm going to give that disclaimer. Your clients are busy. There's going to be some testing on your part when we do the homework. And repetition, obviously, as we're going to talk about throughout the next 3 weeks, is the skill that hones this in. So the first few times you may ask, you might get a couple of introductions or referrals, and you might get a couple of folks say, hey, I'm in a hurry, I got to go, or I'll get back to you. So there is no 100% way these are going to work. Let me also put, and I'd like to have you write this down, kind of a Tonyism. Folks, there is no silver bullet in any form of marketing. And if any presenter, teacher, book ever claims that, run from he or she. There are a series of things that are known to work, but again, there is no silver bullet to solve all your marketing or, in the next few sessions, the referral problem. What we're trying to do is increase the odds substantially based on a past record that these work with clients I've worked with, that Paul and I have coached in my own business each day. I know these principles work, but again, it's going to be about the ongoing training and reinforcement, which is why you're here. All right, in addition, specific language. We're going to do something we have never done except with our core private clients. We're going to give you actual short scripts that each of you on the call can easily modify and use within your particular business. Now, with that being said, as you modify these, as we go into the next couple of sessions, Paul and I welcome, and we actually really encourage you to give us feedback via email or private message on Facebook of how your scripts are working, pro, and maybe some of the challenges that you're having to con of these. Okay? Also, with a little bit more deep dive, because you've said, hey, I want to learn more of this, we're going to specifically go down and identify best referral opportunities that are also online. Again, we did what's really called a surface training last week with the initial training where we said, hey, here's some things you can do right away, but we didn't have as much time to dive deep. So again, I'm very excited for you. And again, this is new training. This is forcing Paul and I to put what's in our mind that we use with our private clients into a training format that people, you know, in a more of a larger group format can understand and really learn and apply. Continuing. First, let me give a couple of reminders. I can tell you, having trained and studied with the best in the world, these two bold statements. Within 24 hours of last week's session, 90 to 95% of what you heard and saw is likely forgotten. That's why I'm going to really encourage you, again, be careful if you're driving. You can't do this, but many of you are probably in front of your desk or stationary. Is grab a pen and paper. I'm going to be really adamant, and here's why. It's known that if you write things down, there's a much higher chance of anchoring in your subconscious than when you go back to it that you'll implement. So I'm going to keep reminding you each week, write things down. And, as that's on the screen, repetition is the mother of all skill. So there's things that you're going to get tired of maybe me saying, but hopefully go, oh yeah, Tony says this. So when you go actually do this, you're going to go, oh, I remember Tony saying this. Or you look down at your notes, oh, there's a reason why I keep having to do these things, because it becomes secondary nature. You know, top athletes have to practice over and over and over before they make the game-winning shot. They've practiced thousands of times before that shot actually materialized in a game. So we're going to borrow from athletics and sports to say, look, practice, practice, practice is our friend. Continuing. All right, advanced mind capture tip number 1. Again, I'm going to go really fast because some of the review is essential from last week. You saw this slide with Ivan Meisner from BNI. Here's the deal. Giver's game is so true. And I want you to think today, as you write this down, that your clients are now going to give you back access to their inner circle. And we're going to show in a very, very unique and rare way of how we do this. And again, the context of today and all the trainings that Paul and I do around the world is this is not to manipulate, to trick, or ever deceive. There are no tricks. There are techniques that when they're actually used, really put your customer in a position to want to help you versus you feeling awkward or like, I feel like I'm being pushy. I want to remove today and thus forward. There is no reason to feel that when you ask and you've earned it, that you're ever being pushy. So again, here at the bottom of the screen it says when you go above and beyond, you've earned the right to ask for introductions or referrals. Continuing. All right, this is brand new. I want to share with you now a new perspective on your customers, regardless of what industry. First point, they can take you to a fortune. And again, you're in the right webinar in the right next few weeks with Paul and I. We made this very, very affordable. And here's what I want to remind you. You stepped up, not so much because we charged you like $17, $18 for this, but your time. And Paul and I, frankly, here's our selfish motive. I'm going to reveal it to you, okay? Frankly, we want you to implement these ideas. Come back to us the next few months and say, hey, holy cow, this works. And if it's working for you, which we believe it will if you implement, you give us a testimonial. Because we want to take this initial deep dive training as you as the beta test of core initial group and share it around the world going forward in 2016 and beyond. All right, the next thing, your customers want you to succeed. The key thing is we're very timid by nature. And some of you are much better salespeople than others. I know Jimmy Vaughn, you're on the line down there in Jacksonville. You're a damn good salesman. But there are a lot of people that have never had any formal sales training, so you don't have the sales mindset. That also hinders the ability to ask for referrals. We're going to work on that the next few weeks. In addition, you must continually, the third bullet point, remind your best customers of how you've helped them. They are shiny. Okay? Paul always says this, you know, we work with some of our clients, man, they got really shiny, and I'm even guilty of it myself. What we mean by this is we have a very short attention span. And I'm going to drill a little bit deeper than I rarely do today on this call about mindset and what's going on with the mind of your customer and you. And a bonus tip, your customers have more money than you really think. Thus, you should always, that's why I put in all caps, you should always be thinking of additional ways to serve them and offer them more products and services. Continuing. Paul switched that. There we go. Again, recapping from last week quickly. Advanced mind capture tip number 2. Habit force is powerful when applied. One thing that we're going to keep hammering and hammering the next few weeks is that referrals should be a daily part of your marketing efforts. People in that picture, if you met them, Paul and I have the privilege of knowing each and every one of them. They are phenomenal at not only networking, but building rapport with people immediately. And also, they're not afraid to ask for referrals. All unique industries in that room, if you sat at that table and interviewed them, many of them are just like you and I. Different industries, but the common core thread is they have the ability to ask, and they do it in a way where people, literally their customers, want to help them. Continuing. All right. Again, 6 reasons. I'm going to walk through these really quick, and I added something new for the deep dive training. Number 1, I want to resell you today for enrolling in the deep dive training with Paul and I that this is going to save you a ton of time. Number 2, referrals to me are very easy to get. That's why we're here. 3, prospects will often pay for value. Some of the feedback Paul and I got the last 7 days was, hey, I want referrals from my high-end customers. How do I get it? Again, you're on the right webinars. Number 4, it is less hassle than cold calling. That's pretty straightforward. Number 5, people are often pre-sold as they've already heard good things about you. Please write this down. When you get referrals, they're not a slam dunk, people. There's a higher chance you're going to get to interact with them, but you still have to sell effectively and convince them that there is a fit. Okay? Number 6, they're easier and less stress to work with as what I call the BS meter is significantly lower. Again, we talked about last week, it's the secret elevator to the top floor. So what that puts you in a position is, I want you to imagine you get the speed pass to jump the line of other salespeople or people trying to get their attention. Now, you still have to work to get the phone appointments or a face-to-face or an email exchange. Okay, those three gifts of attention, again, face-to-face meeting is the highest level, phone call is the second highest level, and the third is an email exchange. Those gifts of attention, the referral helps you get into the queue much higher to get those one of three scenarios, okay? And here's the bonus. Referral marketing definitely beats cold marketing, and it costs little, if anything. All right, next slide. All right, here are three common referral challenges. How to ask without sounding pushy. Again, this was the number one complaint, aka challenge Paul and I heard the last few weeks when we did the webinar last week. Second is, how do you get enough qualified referrals? And really the third challenge is, how do you follow up with them? So there's a picture of the late, great, legendary Zig Ziglar. God, Zig was amazing. He said this, amongst many classics, timid salespeople have skinny children. Folks, if you look around at society, from ministers to politicians to the best teachers that are out there to people that are on television, and particularly those in business, they are not afraid to, number one, be passionate about their mission, and secondly, to really, I almost call it shamelessly ask for you to help them. So anytime you watch a good preacher, you watch a politician giving a speech or at a fundraiser, they're not timid, and that's why they're so successful. Doesn't mean that you or I want to be like them, but there are some clues that we're going to glean in our deep dive the next few weeks that they do that we can definitely model. All right, continuing. All right. I'm going to now add in some new content, and I want you to take a look at this. I'm going to read it to you on the screen. It really helps nail what's going on with the challenge of getting attention. Here's the guy on the left, the cartoon character. Hey, let's have a contest. Who can be bored the longest without reaching for their phone? First, well, character on the right, I'm out. That was taking forever to explain as he looks at his cell phone. Okay? Folks, when you gave Paul and I the gift of your time and attention last week, that's a huge step. The second major step that you all took by being a part of this deep dive training next few weeks is you said, hey, I need to really hone in and give up some valuable time. And I want you to write this down. You're giving up opportunity cost. The next few weeks as we do these calls, you're giving up a few hours of your life. The mission is the 3-4 hours that Paul and I share with you, that we share collectively, you now go forward and implement these strategies to save hundreds of hours of time over the next several years by implementing and taking the time to invest in these next few weeks, okay? So let's continue on with a little bit more advanced thoughts about attention. I'm going to walk through again quickly because you can go back through these PowerPoints. But we are in a 9-second attention span world. It's getting worse. This is directly from research that Sally Hogshead has done and many of the top attention experts. Second thing is there's a huge overwhelm factor. Biggest thing that drives me nuts as a marketing ace, as it does Paul. People continue to want to come to us and want a 60-second answer to a 10-year marketing problem. Think of that for a minute. There is no, again, silver bullet, 60-second answer to a 10-year marketing problem. Thus, you've given a few hours of your life the next few weeks to learn this skill called referral mastery is going to pay off if you implement in multiple spades as far as new clients, more repeat business, and saving a ton of time. Next major challenge, everyone is doing more with less people. Several of you on this call today, and the ones that are going to be joining us next week, you're Lone Wolf Incorporated, okay? Jimmy Vaughn, I know you're sitting down there in Jacksonville. You might have a couple people on your team that help you, but you are the Lone Ranger. You have to do all this. Some of you are blessed to have a few people on your team that you need to share some of these strategies with. I also want you to think as a future vision of you that as you grow your business down the road, many of the things we're going to share the next few weeks, you're going to be teaching to your growing team. So think from a dual learning mentality. Number one, to help you implement first as the lone wolf. And secondly, as you grow your enterprise in the future, because you're getting more referrals, okay, you're going to be adding people on. You're going to want to train them with these techniques that work over time as you grow and scale your business, okay? Next few challenges. Digital ADD. Some of you right now are looking at your cell phone. I can't control that. When I go to seminars to learn, my phone is right there. So I want you to really look at the sacred space of training to try to block out the digital distraction. Same is true with your customers. Once you get them on the phone, or you're emailing them back and forth, or the best, highest use of time is if you get them face-to-face, this is where you have to be thinking, this is my moment to be asking how they can help me grow my business. Doesn't mean you beg them, but that gift of attention has to be leveraged properly going forward. Additionally, looking at the screen, people are mentally worn out from excessive multitasking. I struggle with this. You know, I'm the preacher that tries to follow his own teaching. But again, there are days that my day falls out of control where frankly shit happens. Emergencies pop up. My kids call. There's something going on with my fiance. Paul has something he needs done. Life comes crashing in. However, if we have a daily habit, many times we can get back into that flow the next day. Folks, we're hit with 5,000 marketing messages per day. That's a low number here in North America. It's increasing. And the next point, typically, each of us has about 50 to 60,000 self-talk conversations. Again, I'm not trying to scare you. Trying to get you into the mind of your customer to be able to capture them. It's been my central teaching for over a decade. Is look, if you don't get attention at the point of engagement, or when you have their attention, you don't ask or have a system, you've lost a huge opportunity to not only help them, but help your business. And the last point here, by 2020, folks, check this out. The great Brian Tracy said this to me when I interviewed him. Information is going to double every 3 days. So I don't see the attention paradigm getting any easier. I think it's going to require what I call referral champions, such as you and I on these calls, to get much more, I would say, in tune into the mind of your customer, or as John Caples would say, enter the conversation of the mind quickly, effectively, and professionally, so that in this digital ADD world, you are much more successful and you can navigate and save a ton of time. Continuing. All right, the ASK formula. A is for ask, S is for specific, K is know when to ask for the referral. We went through that last week, and again, we're going to dive deeper. Continuing. Ask, think introductions. Please write this down again. This is a core where Paul and I are going to take you the next few weeks. Instead of thinking of referrals, I want you to be thinking, who can your customers introduce you to? When we show you some of the short scripts that'll be part of your homework today, I want you to be looking and really replacing the word the next few weeks of referrals. Again, Paul and I can't market this as introduction magic. It just won't work. So referral is the standard way we get you in the front door, but introductions take you to the top floor. Continuing. It's got to be specific. Okay? Research is your friend. Again, Brian Tracy, the great productivity business guru, would say this. When you have a plan and you sit down and think this out and you rehearse and you use these scripts, there's typically a 4-to-1 return on investment of your time. Put it this way. Paul and I have spent hours preparing this information to share today versus just throwing something together. That's not fair to you because you gave us your time and attention and a little bit of your money. But more importantly, that's a disservice to Paul and I. If we're going to teach it, we have to have a plan to teach it in the format. In addition, when you look at being specific, you must guide your customers through to the people they know. Again, the mind thinks in pictures. You got to make it easier. The goal here is for them to help you. So there is a motive. There is a plan when we're sharing the next few weeks these specific dive deep strategies, is to take years and years of what Paul and I have figured out works and actually use every day still. We don't write about it. We actually do it. And so look, we're going to shortcut you hundreds of experiences that I've had with customers and clients that our clients have had to bring you really the best of the best. Continuing. All right, continuing on being specific. There is the Rule of 250. I'd like you to write this down. This is golden. Joe Girard, Guinness Book of World Records, coined the term the Rule of 250. Essentially, I'm not talking about Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the shiny stuff, the social media. But if someone said at gunpoint, I want you to write down in 15 minutes 250 people you know, most people could do this. This is their inner golden mental Rolodex. This is the core we're going to tap into going forward with our best customers. They know a lot of people. Folks, again, the mind thinks in pictures with specific language, aka scripting, and a system that you use consistently as a habit. You're going to start to be able to evoke pictures in their mind of people they can take you to. I want you to think rifle shot on the next point here. So many people aren't even aware of how to even get referrals. Again, not a criticism. It's just typically not taught. And again, deep dive training is really never out there in the market space, okay? So we're going to have you thinking going forward the rest of your business career, if this sticks with you, to think rifle shot versus just kind of shooting out something randomly. Hey, if you can think of somebody, send them my way. You know what that answer is going to be? Oh, yeah, when I get to it, which is AKA never, okay? The more specific you are with the question, obviously the better the result. In addition, a confused mind will not be able to answer a question. Let me give you the simplest way to hammer this point. Please remember this. Think of when someone asks you to tell them a funny joke, okay? They say, hey, Paul, have you heard a great joke lately? Paul might have just heard 3 jokes this morning, but he can't think of the joke he heard. Now, if I ask him a different question, hey, Paul, what's a funny joke you heard about football or sports? He might go, Tony, it's funny you mention that. Because Paul and I are Detroit Lions football fans. He might say, I heard 3 great Lions jokes this morning. He can tell me a joke if I prompt him with an accurate, specific question, much better than a vague, general question. And finally, know your prospect or client. Something that we're going to go through the next few weeks is what I call website magic. Paul, are you getting any echo, or is it just me again?
I just unmuted myself because I wanted to step in for a sec.
Go ahead.
The point you just made about, hey, Paul, do you know anything jokes about football or sports? You jogged my memory immediately, and I jumped to something, a joke about that. Now, and I'm not going to tell it right now, but that's the thing. Knowing your prospect and client and who they're associated with, you can easily find that out on their social media, their websites, and when you say website magic, that's what we're talking about, is their profiles online. You can find out who they're associated with. If your clients don't know the kinds of customers you're looking for, like the affluent customers, you're not going to get referrals for them. That's one point. But the other point is that it's when you ask someone for a referral, or, hey, is there anybody you can introduce me? Their mind goes blank. But the minute you say, hey, I noticed that you're in this group, you're in this bowling league, who are some of the guys in your group that you go to church with that are looking for insurance or a new car or whatever it might be? That jogs their memory. So it's a specific question about what they're interested in that will help lead you to that referral.
Exactly. And we're going to go through some specific examples in the next few slides. So thank you, sir. Good input.
Yep, you bet.
Continuing. All right, here we go. Let me give you the first of 2, and I'm going to read these through so you can integrate it, and then the next couple sessions when we get Q&A feedback from each of you, we can find out, what's working for you, or hey, Tony, I modified that script, or Paul, I like this, tweak it for me. Here's the first one. Sue, I was looking at your website that you guys work with XYZ Industries. I'm curious. I would love an introduction to meet them. Do you know whom I might reach out to? As you look at that on the screen, here's what I want to deconstruct. I want to look at if you chunk it down, how you build a structure that you could model, okay? And this is a huge shortcut, people. If you look at the languaging, you put your customer's name in there, and you determine, and again, this is what I want you to think. It's not on the screen. You need to become a Columbo. You do a little detective work. And gosh, it's so easy now. 20 years ago when I first started selling, we didn't have the internet. I know that sounds old school to my kids. They're like, Dad, they're teenagers. How'd you guys function? But now you can literally go, they show you their Rolodex, their website. This is often forgotten because everyone's so shiny with social media. Go to your customer's website. Let me give you some advanced tips now. This is where the rubber meets the road, where they list their testimonials, customers, clients. If they have those tabs on their web page or it's right on their front page, folks, that's referral gold. They're going to tip their hand right there, and they're going to identify people that you can want to be introduced to and what companies and typically the name of the person. So the more specific you get and you prompt them, and again, you do this before you get on the phone call with them. I know sometimes they call you or they drop into your business. That's unscheduled. But you can take this strategy when they leave your office and they hang up the phone and email them back this question. You could say, hey, Sue, great to talk to you today. I forgot to ask you, but I noticed looking at your website after you left my office or we hung the phone up that you guys work with XYZ. And many times, your customer, and I bet you 99 times out of 100 are not going to ever get mad at you, think that you're being pushy, or think that you're being manipulative by doing your homework. here's what's not implied on the slide. When you show that you've researched them, and you say, hey, I was looking at your website to learn more about you, I noticed you guys landed a big contract, or hey, congratulations, they're going to think the world of you. You actually did your homework on them to learn more about them. Folks, again, 99 of 100 salespeople never even research their clients. They're lazy. Not you and I. Again, you've already separated yourself to be on these calls, but the average 80% of your salespeople won't do the homework. Okay, I'd rather do 5 minutes of homework than an hour of cold calling. Okay, match over. Or, here's the next example on the screen. Sue, I noticed that you sing with Sweet Adelines. Could you introduce me to someone in your group who would also like to save money in their auto or homeowner's insurance like you did? Now, that's a very specific ask into Sue's direct core group or her passion, which is this group. Now, you could easily modify this where you could put in, you know, I'd like to talk to someone about, in your group about, you know, financial planning. Or, hey, Sue, who are some people that, you know, you hang out with in the Sweet Adelines, which I love, by the way, that might be going through a financial change? They're looking for some advice. Now, this does not work every time, but here's where you're light years ahead of most average salespeople. You have specifically got into her head. You're painting a picture. She knows other people in that group. And here's something I want you also write down. Don't take it as they don't think of someone right away as personally they don't like you. They can't maybe think of it, or their mind is going 1,000 different directions. And it could be a month later at one of her, you know, practices, Mike in the group, you know, is over, you know, saying something about his financial planning or his auto insurance. He's complaining about it. And Sue goes, oh my gosh, you know what, you got to meet Tony. And what happened is that prompting in her head of who you're looking for may not show up right then and there, but it may show up a month later when she's at choir practice or during rehearsal, and she remembers you in the top of her mind. Oh yeah, you know what? It's funny you should ask. You should call my friend Tony. So you've got to be thinking of all the air traffic in people's minds today. You've got to keep reminding them of specifically who you want to meet that's just like them. Now, that brings up a question that Paul and I got this morning from one of our attendees. They said, hey, I'm tired of, you know, getting my lowest paying customers to send me referrals. I want to get people that are worth 10 times more. Let me address that right now. That was a great, powerful question. What I want you to do, and this will be part of the homework, you're going to see a bit later, is write down your top 10 customers based on that know, like, and trust you, and that spend the most amount of money with you. They're the highest value customers you have, okay? It's easy to do. You look at your spreadsheet, your Excel, or your QuickBooks site, sorry, here are my top 10 customers for 2015. And you go through and you say, those are the 10 that I want to meet more people just like them, okay? People work and associate in peer groups. Let me give you the best example I know in my core business. I work with lots of bankers, CEOs. One bank CEO definitely knows 3 or 4 other bank CEOs that he either networks he or she in their local groups, in a state association, or maybe they're competitors, or what I call friendly competition. So when I meet with the bank president, he or she, and I work with male and females, I ask them, you know, hey, who are 2 or 3 other banks that you network with in Mid-Michigan bankers that I can maybe do the same thing for? I want them to think of 2 or 3 people they literally sit down with at a monthly meeting that they know, like, and trust, or maybe that they play golf with, that they can easily think, oh yeah, you need to call Joe Smith. Because I've given them a very clear prompting and a specific instruction and a question for them to take me to where it arrives to that 1 or 2 contacts. Okay? So take a look at those 2 scripts. They're not hard to modify. And one I gave you on the first one, if you look at that, I gave you 3 different clues for everyone on the call of areas you should start with in that order. Their website, if they have a blog, or their Facebook fan page, or their LinkedIn. I didn't put LinkedIn, but those 4 are very, very quick identifiable ways to find good introductions or referrals. Continuing. Let's look at how to ask. I'm going to give you some more examples here. Again, many of you saw and said to Paul and I last 2 weeks, I don't want to sound pushy. I don't really know how to do this, so we're going to really strip this down for you to look at, practice, and rehearse. First scenario, and this is why you're on the phone. You're going to say this. I'll role play right now. Hey, Joe, you know, while we're on the phone, I have a quick question for you. Who are a couple of people in your Christian men's group that you might introduce me to that can possibly do the same thing for them? Let me redo it again. Joe, while we're on the phone, quick question for you. Who are a couple of people that you network in the New Car Dealers Association that you might introduce me to that can possibly do the same thing for. I'm giving these exact short scripts because here's the deal. The shorter the better. If I gave you long page-and-a-half scripts, it's not going to stick. It's not to be sloppy, but to get the initial scripting going that I know has a higher chance of you implementing, and to show you in the parentheses here some different examples of how you can plug in your customers' groups once you identify who they network with. Okay? It gets really fun as you do a few of these, and it gets a lot easier because you're like, okay, before I call my client Joe or before I go meet with him, I'm going to spend 5 minutes with their file in front of me. I want you to imagine you've got a manila file. All right, I just dropped one on my desk. Okay, hear that? And you open up with a pen, you go to their website or their LinkedIn page, and you write down, okay, here are 3 people. Oh, wow, I didn't know that Joe knew this person. And then you actually can ask them during the meeting or before you pick up the phone and call them. Folks, those 2 little steps dramatically increase the odds that they're going to be able to give you a highly qualified introduction because you did a little bit of homework. The second example on the screen. Here's a great real-world one. Mike, I noticed on your website, you guys work with ABC Industries. I think you'd be a good fit for what we do, and I wonder if you had a good contact over there that you might introduce me to. Now, why in the world, if you've done a good job, would Mike not be able to help you here? If there's hesitation, let me give you something that is an advanced training tip right now. If there's hesitation on Mike's part, this could be gold, and here's why. Mike might say, well, I don't know, I have to double check, or, let me get back to you. This is where you need to be very candid. Say, Mike, I sense some hesitation here. Are we okay? And I want everyone to write this down. You ask this question, are we okay? Question mark. Because what you might uncover, if you're getting any resistance when you ask for a specific introduction, there might be a problem with your own service. That Mike might tell you, Tony, we ordered with you or we went with you last year and there was a couple of points of feedback I need to tell you about. Folks, that is golden. I know it's not positive feedback, but unless the customer tells you where you need to improve, that's also why they're hesitating to give you introductions or referrals. I'd much rather know that than to be naive to assume that I'm always doing a good job, okay? But I would say 9 times out of 10, you're doing a good job. You can sense your customer if they're happy and they're giving you good feedback. This is when you can ask that second question, okay? All right, the third example. Sue, I had a quick favor to ask. I found that referrals are the best way to grow my business as everyone is so busy. I was curious if there's a key person or peer that you respect in your industry that you might introduce me to see if I may be of service. Now, that third example is a little bit more broad, okay? Again, I have to make some assumptions about everyone on this call that you know your customers better than I do. You know specifically what industries they network with or what industry or vertical market that they're in. But this third one, if some of you are working with, a business to consumer or what we call B2C, you're going to have to be a little bit more generalized because, again, you can't get a specific. But let me break down a couple of key things that are going in this third example, okay? What I'm saying in the second sentence is this, or, hey, I found that referrals are the best way to grow my business is everyone is busy. What I'm telegraphing is, look, hey, I build my business via word of mouth. I also know that you're busy. The third sentence, I was curious. It's letting them know, hey, I'm not exactly sure here. Can you help me? Now, there's something really cool about human nature, and we may hit on this in the second or third session. When your customers are asked properly and you humble yourself, they're actually quite surprised because they're not used to, number one, being asked for referrals. And number two, it shows them that, hey, I need your help. Again, I said right in the beginning of the training today, the onsite, we're not going to beg anyone ever for introductions. But if we ask a good question and we humble ourselves to say, hey, I build my business via word of mouth, it's setting the expectation that you need them to help you build your business. Here's also something that's never really taught in any marketing seminars that I've ever been to. Folks, please write this down. Your customers want you to be successful. They don't want you to struggle. I mean, who wants to, if they've given you their know, like, and trust factor and their time and attention in their business, I don't know about you, but when I hear about a local business that goes out of business that I've done business with, like a local restaurant, it kind of bums me out. I'm like, dang it, that local Mexican restaurant's out of business now. Shoot, I really like going there. And sometimes if I run into that business owner, I might be like, hey, I didn't know you guys were struggling. And again, it's not telegraphing that we're ever desperate or that our business is hurting, but again, your customers want you to be successful. All right, so there's 3 real good examples of some sample scripts that is your homework, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. I want you to pick one of them, just one of them, and modify and begin to use it. All right, continuing. All right, this is another huge challenge. We forget to ask. I have been guilty of this. And trust me, I don't hit this out of the park 100% of the time, but I will tell you, I'm very good if I forget in a sales call or I'm doing a follow-up call, I will do an email later. I'll do a reference letter request. I'll say, hey, I forgot to ask you when we're on the phone. Or when I met with you last week, I forgot to ask. So don't feel this that you're the only one that forgets to do this. But what I really want to do, and this is the pleasure of deep dive training, is really have you focus on something that you are now aware of that you're not doing. So here we go. To me, asking is a force of habit. It's part of your sales process. What I want you to do is write this down. Process, circle. All right, so write the word process and circle it. Today, as we record this, going forward, you are now very consciously aware that you have not been doing this. And by writing and going through the training, you are now going to be every day become much more conscious that this has to be a part of your sales process. Here's the second advanced strategy. I do this with certain retainer clients. I have them actually create a checklist that their entire sales force must use. Now, I slowed down for effect, and here's why. It's not an option, but the VPs of sales tell the sales force, we are now going to use these questions when we do our sales call or our follow-up. It is no longer an option. We can't wing it. And what they do is they tie it into their compensation. So again, I'm saving you thousands of dollars right now in consulting fees by telling you that my top 10 clients, many of them make this part of their performance review. And every week with their manager at each location, whoever they report to, they must show their sales reports or in their CRM that they ask these questions. Okay? In addition, third point, you tell them right away that your business is built on positive word of mouth. Folks, this is critical when you get a brand new customer. It also reinforces to them that you have helped other people before them. See, a lot of people get buyer's remorse because the salesperson, he or she, is not confident when they actually close the deal. Now, some of you don't like the word close the deal. I know Jeffrey Gitomer and other gurus and mentors would say that's when you open the sales processes and when you sign them up. It's to me neither an issue to worry about or argue about or split hairs. But when you get a customer sign on and they're purchasing their first time, they're signing up over the phone, they give you a credit card or in your shopping cart online and they pop in, it is your mission to not only cement the sale, to cure and help them get over buyer's remorse, which they may have, but also remind them at this point that you have helped other people just like them and that, hey, I get lots of word of mouth referrals. I'm going to circle back to you in the next month or two to ensure that what I said is delivered to you. And then again, if I've done that, hey, I know you know other people, Joe. You're very well connected. Then I find out who else you can take me to. What I just did right there in that example scenario is I just edified Joe's buying decision, and I gave him a compliment that he knows other people. All right, next point on the screen here is a bonus tip. Record your best salesperson's presentation and have it transcribed. This is something that Paul is very, very good at, and I learned this from him. Record and get obviously permission. If it's a full-time employee, you can do this with their permission, and tape the call. And again, I wouldn't put the interaction with your customer up on the internet because that might be a problem because of confidentiality. But for internal training, take the audio, have someone transcribe it, and if you have questions about how to do that, you can email Paul and I over the next few weeks during training, okay? Then get that transcribed and then have it emailed to you in a Word document. What you can do in your sales meeting, or if you are the salesperson, you can go back through and you can refine what you did on that call to make it more successful. And if you're training people now or in the future, you can have a very tight, duplicatable script. Yes, the word script is not bad, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Then you can implement, and as Paul put in here to help me co-create this training, you rinse and repeat the formula, okay? We're very blessed to work with people smarter than Paul and I. I'm going to throw a name out right now that some of you know very well. His name is Ben Gay III. You want to do some research? One of the best still alive on the planet Earth that Paul and I have worked with directly, had to speak at our events. He's on our faculty for our mastermind group. Ben Gay is the king of scripting. After these trainings are over, I'm going to highly advocate you go get his books called The Closers 1 and 2. I know I'm going off script here a little bit, but this guy taught Paul and I. Folks, he's worked with Zig Ziglar. He hired Zig to work for him. I could go on and on. But once you dive into Ben Gay III's world, your life and your selling career will forever be changed for the better, okay? So I'm giving credit where credit is definitely due. Ben taught us the power of scripting. Continuing. So again, many of you are challenged to remember. Here are some promptings. Look up a new customer's website. Go to their social media presence, their Facebook business page, LinkedIn. We put these in this very tight deep dive training so you can go back to this. Again, you will not remember all this today. If you're writing things down, maybe 10 or 15% of the training is going to stick today. But we want these PowerPoint presentations, these recordings, to be a gift for you to go back to. They're evergreen. They don't change with time. The technology changes. You look at there's some new tools that didn't exist 20 or 30 years ago, okay? But these tools of social media are golden to help us become much, as Ben would say again, sales infiltrators or referral experts, okay? Next point, find out what associations, groups, or peer groups that your customers are a member of or are active in. Okay, you can do this visually. Old school ways, you go in their office, you look at their wall, and you see they're part of the, Traverse City Rotary Club. They're a part of the Jacksonville Toastmasters. They're a part of the Kansas City Royals Alumni Association. Those peer groups that they're a part of, or on their website, what affiliations they're in, or chambers of commerce, or business groups, in particular like the Kansas City Bar Association, folks, write those down. Put it in their file. Put it in your CRM notes. Those are golden, what I call peer groups or associations. If you ask specifically to be introduced in those groups, they will know likely several people they can take you to. Okay? Let me give you a real example here on the screen at the bottom. I have a gig in Seattle next Tuesday, and it's for a group called WBA, Washington Bankers Association. Now, this was prompted as more of a direct ask because of an APRO-bait you see on the screen here that I did for MBA, which is Michigan Bankers Association. I'm thinking of MBA, the old school. And what I did is after I promoted and did a gig in April for Michigan Bankers Association, they sent me a reference letter. What I did is I forwarded on to Washington Bankers Association, to their contact, Liz Wilson, who I'd worked with years ago. I said, hey, Liz, I'm just circling back with you. I want to show you some recent, comments from one of your peer groups, Michigan Bankers. I kid you not, within 2 days, she emailed me back. A couple days later, this is over the summer, she called me and said, Tony, we've got some programs coming up in the fall, in the spring of next year, 2016. You saw the reference letter. Let's bring you back. Now, that's more of an advanced reach-out referral technique with a current client where I took a reference letter and I basically name dropped. So if you see their AK name dropping, folks, there is nothing wrong with this. In a 9-second attention span world, you need to bring your best bullet as fast as humanly possible in an email, a text, face-to-face, or a phone call. And what I prompted her, and here's the proof, I have a gig next Tuesday based on those activities, is we run in peer groups. So that letter from Michigan Bankers Association is, again, another reinforcement, proof that what I'm saying to her is real. She'll believe that reference letter 1,000 times more than me, even though she's worked with me years ago. So that's a little bit more of an advanced strategy, but it is definitely effective. As you get more and more effective at using this, when you get reference letters, take those reference letters to find out who else they can take you to. All right, continuing. Again, a little bit of recap from last week. Here are 4 great ways to remind you when you should ask for introductions. I know it's simple, but it is very, very true. You got to be thinking about this daily. Each of you, unless you're traveling, you're going to run into your customers, you're going to interface with them, you're going to email them, you're going to talk on the phone. Be thinking, who can they take me to? Second prompter is when you get a new sale. We've given you multiple ways to build that into your system, your script. Use it, okay? When you get a compliment, okay, this is golden. Anytime a customer, I don't care if it's an email, a text message, thank you, they drop in your business, on the phone, when they say, hey, you know what, we love working with you, Tony. You know, you're a pleasure to work with. Hey, we got great feedback from our attendees. Or, wow, I was talking, you know, at my coffee group this morning at my Toastmasters about you. Okay, great. Here's what you need to think. If they're talking about you, especially in the last example, I was talking about you at my Toastmasters meeting this morning. Here's what you say. Thank you so much. Write this down. Thank you so much for the compliment. I'm glad you were talking about me. That's good news. Okay? And here's what you do next. The transition is you say, John, wow, well, I gotcha. Who are a couple people in your Toastmasters group that you could introduce me to? Right then and there. In that last example I gave you, that real world, you know, that sort of slice of life, they've walked you right into who they were talking to. Then right there you ask, what's going to be fun as you start to implement one or two of these ideas in the next few weeks? Again, one or two. We're going to bite the referral elephant one or two chunks at a time. I want you to keep rehearsing, drilling, and doing. This is going to become second nature to you. Okay? And again, the easiest way to identify a referral is sitting right in front of you. And I want you to visualize right now in your mind, wherever you're sitting, that there is a referral, like planted 1 foot from your face, is when you hear this. Tony, my gosh, you saved the day. Or you know what? Wow, people are still raving about what you did. Or hey, thank you so much. You bailed me out, man. My wife thinks I'm the greatest. At that marker, you have got to be thinking, I will never get an easier way or time to ask is right when I've helped them at their peak state when I have saved the day. Okay? Continuing. So let's break it down again. We showed you very clearly in session 1 that you've got to ask but also have a plan. So what Paul and I really wanted to do, again, we do this with some of our private coaching clients and retainer clients, is we're actually giving you the scripting and the language. You've got that now. So now what I want you to do is think, secondly, remove referral forever from your vocabulary and start thinking introduction. And again, let me break it down like we did last week really quick. It's a less threatening word. It's unique. You know, it has more mind capture-esque sort of qualities when you say, hey, who can you introduce me to? We love to help each other. Introduction's a lot better than referral. Third bullet point here. We want to use a layered approach. Paul and I, as we dig into the next couple of sessions, are going to show you specifically how to layer and the techniques that he and I use to do this all the time. Okay? And the fourth point is you always want to make sure that you name drop in an email when you're asking. You always CC in the person who sent you, especially the subject line. So the next slide, I'm going to show you a direct example of this. Example number 1. Okay, Tom Smith is your client. You get a referral from Tom Smith. Here's what you put in the subject line, exactly how it's put right there. Tom Smith asked me to connect. Here's the reason why underneath it. You have to have the short language and short script. They're essential. Okay? These email subject lines, 99% of the mind capture battle is won or lost at the point of engagement, that subject line. You need to clearly name drop right away with their name, and you keep that subject line where it makes them curious. Here's a second example of why scripting is used and it's always around you. Fast food industry, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, they all employ scripts, as do most retailers. Let me caution you right now, cover your ears or stay with me. Anytime you go shopping now, especially at a major retailer like a Macy's, a Best Buy, watch what they do to you now at the cash register. I swear it's almost become like a game. And for me, it almost annoys me. You go to checkout, they're going to say, sir, what's your email? Or, Mr. Gillespie, when I show them my credit or debit card, they're going to say, what's your zip code? What they're doing is they're trying to obviously capture if you've been there before, or if you're a new customer, how they can offer you to get your email. Now, here are three examples below. And here is proof that you were in, the right webinar. They do this with 15-year-olds. They ask you at the drive-thru, do you want to supersize that? That's a scripted upsell. The second question I often ask is, do you want fries with that Big Mac, sir? Or with that chicken sandwich? And the third is, would you like to save an additional 20% today by opening a Macy's credit card? Folks, they are trained and they are audited. They are monitored. They are tracked. And here is my challenge to everyone, regardless of age on this call. If they can do it, so can you. So I give you, again, permission today to reimagine your business, to disrupt it in a positive way, to change it around. And folks, write this down. Start adding more fun. It's a lot of fun to market this way. than to go to tons of networking meetings where you feel awkward. You feel sometimes like, oh, I'm at another networking meeting. Again, I'm not saying that's all bad. We're not going to talk about getting more strategic with that. But instead of cold calling or going, man, I need more prospects in my phone, how am I going to do this? I call that Sunday night sales insomnia. As you say, how am I going to look at my current core relationships and leverage them to have them take me to people they know? That's very, very proactive and smarter than cold calling. All right, continuing. We're just about wrapped up here. If you don't measure it, you can't improve it. Here's where 99% of businesses fail. Right out of my mouth, there's no tracking of how leads or referrals are coming in, and then even following up to thank the person who sent it to you. So let's continue. Second strategy here today I want to hit on heavily. Track your leads and reward the referral behavior. Again, this is straight out of our initial session. Remember, a referral is so valuable as it's someone's reputation on the line. Continuing. Here's $1 million question to always be asking. How did you hear about us? I know we have a lot of folks that work for themselves on the call. This will be easy because it's up to you to make sure it's implemented. But when I work with sales teams or small entrepreneurs that have 5 or 6 employees and they're growing, this is one that I constantly go in and they look at me like I'm this magical guru. I'm like, no, most businesses don't do it. So here's step 1. You got to track every inbound lead with that question. So if you get an email, you get a Facebook message, you get a phone call, if someone walks in your physical location, the first thing that you ask after you thank them and get their name is, hey, John, how did you hear about us? Or is this your first time here? And they say, yeah, it's my first time here. Well, I'm curious, how did you hear about us? What made you call? And write that down. When I do mystery shopping for big companies, I'm not kidding you, these are companies I'm like shocked they don't even do this. So again, that tip alone, I call it $1 million question. For some companies, it's worth millions of dollars in revenue. Okay. Step 2, follow up, acknowledge, and thank the person who sent the referral to you. Okay. Our memories are bad. I'm literally grabbing a pen right now on my desk and a Post-it note. When I get a referral, which I get them every week, I write down, how did you hear about me? Oh, Mike Johnson over at Johnson Plumbing. Okay, I write that right down on the Post-it note. Then I put it in a new file when I open it up. Here's why. I don't rely on my memory. Okay? As I gotten over 40 years old now, when you write things down, you can find it, you can recall it, and it makes the person know that you're listening. Okay? And I'll say, hey, Mike Johnson, okay, great, I write that down. It's a tricky name. I ask the customer, hey, did I spell that right? Okay. That way I can follow up with them. And here's the third step. This is why we're doing deep dive training. Have someone at the end of each 1 to 2 weeks go back to the records, the database, the messages, to audit and check up on the follow-up with the person that sent it to you, the aka the referral partner. Now, in future sessions, we're going to talk about some CRM tools and some standardized ways to record these leads. Paul is very good at getting systems up. So we're going to share a couple that we use to handle a ton of data and how do we track our clients, especially when we're doing lots of coaching calls, we're recording them. How do we find that golden data? Okay? Continuing. Okay? Again, this is from last week's, just a quick recap. What I want you to do is think of what you're currently using on this list, continue to do it, and maybe add one more in here, okay? Real fast, handwritten thank you notes are still golden. Okay? My favorite technique. Recognize your customers who send you referrals on your social media. We do it in our e-letter as well. Third point, customized greeting card. Paul, make a note if you could. We may do in session 3 or 4 on the Q&A call, I might do a walkthrough on send-out cards, but that is a service that Paul and I have used for years that's very effective. Next point, you send them a meal or a gift certificate or you take them out and break bread. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That builds relationships. When you take a customer out for a meal or coffee, that is time well spent to enrich the relationship, but also let them know that you're different. Magazine subscriptions, another great thank you. Kids, grandkids are always selling subscriptions. You do a special thank you event or you host a holiday party. I just this morning got an email from one of my design teams here in Spokane, Washington. They do their annual pajama party. It is a riot. It's free for their clients. It's gotten so big that if you want to attend as a guest, you have to pay $75. So, I mean, you talk about an epic way to thank your clients. It works. Next couple of ideas, you send them a picture with you and the person they referred you to. I love, with our cell phones now, write this one down. This is huge. I do this all the time. Have someone take a picture with me and the person they refer me to. Then I text it to them when I leave the meeting. Or during the meeting, I say, hey, guess who I'm with? Thanks for the referral to Mike. He says hello. Not only is that fun, but everyone has a hoot with that, and that's a real-time, quick way to grab with your cell phone a thank you right on the spot with a picture. And then finally, the old event strategy is still timeless and it works. You take them out to a concert, you go to a ball game, you go to their kids' games, you bring your kids, you have fun. And these little details are huge as you continue to grow your business. Continuing. We're just about wrapped up here. All right, here's homework time. 3 homework items to put into action immediately. Number 1, take one of the introduction scripts that I covered and try it with 5 of your best customers over the next few days. Now, you can plan these out when you have scheduled calls. Here's the simplest way. Look at your calendar over the next 3-4 days and then the next week and look at what upcoming calls you've got, either face-to-face sales calls or telephone appointments, and come up with a strategy, a script for each of those 5 customers. Second homework item. This should be really easy. Some of you can do this right now before we end the call today. You can make a list of your top 20 customers and referral partners. Now, this is fun. You're going to send them just a simple thank you gift for their business and referrals over the years. You say, well, I don't have money. Well, do a thank you card. You and your assistant, preferably you, sit down over lunch or at dinner or after dinner tonight with a stack of 20 thank you cards. All the same. Grab a pen, okay, and write, Mike, enjoyed working the last 10 years. Thank you so much for your business. Do those thank you cards, okay? If you've got a small gift, some of my favorites, again, I already gave you a list, is you send them a book, okay? But maybe, sorry, Tony, I don't have time. Well, then do 10. At a minimum, your top 10 customers or referral partners, send them a small thank you gift. Again, this is not to bribe. This is to genuinely thank them for their business. Here's what's also going to happen. When you talk to them next, now don't do this with the intent of saying, hey, I'm going to follow up a week later with a phone call to ask them for referrals. No, no, no. Let's say 2 months from now when you talk to them, they're going to remember that you actually thanked them for their business or the referrals that they give you. And secondly, they're going to think that's really cool. Okay, so you're building some good customer equity. You're adding a deposit into the relationship with a pure thank you gift or a thank you card. Number 3, begin to train and require. This is no longer an option. If any of you listening, and a few of you have employees on the call, I'm going to ask and really plead with you to require your entire team to ask and track all leads going forward. Again, repetition. How did you hear about us? I have a meeting this afternoon in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho with a company. If you want to call me out on it, I'll email you their name privately, where I'm going to be working through the office manager with 2 scripts that all 7 employees are going to have to use going forward to track. Okay? And she is going, her name is Jen, the office manager, is going to every week track all the tracking slips with the entire staff of all the inbound calls and emails. She's going to do it every week. So, again, you're seeing more businesses step up and do this. Those 3, I want you to look at every homework item. Some of those are going to be much easier. As we go into session 2 next week, we're going to continue to build on these core foundations of your referral magic house. Okay? Paul, is that it? Is there any more slides? Oh, okay. Paul, I'm going to turn it back to you to kind of go through next action steps.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Tony. Very well. Next session is next Wednesday, November 11th at 12 Eastern. I want to remind you, I will send out a couple of reminder emails, and I just want to make sure that you are getting emails. I know I sent some from our autoresponder, and only a few open, but I know you're getting them because I've seen that you've opened the last message I sent. But you need to register for these GoToWebinars, or at least know the link so you can click on it, and you'll be required to register when you log in when you arrive next Wednesday. So I'll send you a reminder about that. And follow up on these tips. Follow up on these tips, especially Tony's that last suggestion to do some cards is a great idea to stay top of mind. That's what Tom is. But next week, we're going to be talking about, we're going to recap what we talked about. We're going to get some questions. After this session, you'll be asked for, there's a little survey at the end, so if you would please just give us some input so we can fine-tune what we cover with you next week, but we're planning on covering follow-up tips to maximize, stay top of mind, and a keep in touch system. And I know one of you are asking on today, I don't remember which one, wants a system to put into place, and that's what this is all about, is putting together a system that you can systematically and habitually go and get these referrals and build your business that way and ask for introduction. So I think that's about it. Oh, I guess one more thing. One more thing is in your when you do that survey, we're considering putting together a Facebook group. If you're interested in that, either send us an email or just let us know. We could put one up pretty quick. That way you can post your questions about in your example scripts. You can post it up there, and we can kind of weigh in them, and we can share and help each other and get to know each other. So I'm thinking about doing that.
Well,
go ahead.
I love that. I love that idea. And let me end with one final thing. Are you all set?
I think so, yeah.
All right, very good. Let me again thank everyone for the gift of your time and attention today. This is going to be a lot of fun. I know Paul and I really had to put some time into this, so we're excited for the next couple of sessions. Get those surveys in. Feel free to reach out via email, and we will talk to everyone next week, November 11th at 12 noon Eastern. Take care.